Yo, what's up guys, and welcome back to another episode. This episode we're going to be doing a steering shaft modification for the E46. So we're going to go from this big chungus here down to a slimline steering shaft. And this costs about $15 to make, maybe a couple of hours work. The reason we're going to this is because it's a lot thinner and it doesn't get in the way of like turbo builds and things like that. Now this isn't my idea, this is actually another guy on YouTube. His name's the One-Armed Bandit. So his link's down below. He's the original guy who came up with this, not me. So I'm not taking credit for this, but I'm just doing a how-to video on this so people are able to follow it step by step. There was a few things on the way after watching his video that I had to kind of learn as I went. So this will hopefully save someone a lot of time. It's got all the measurements and all the dimensions you'll ever need for making this. So it's pretty much a one-stop shop. Right, so what you need is one of these steering shafts in the center. And this is from a 2009 to 2017 Ford Fiesta. I'll drop a picture now of what the vehicle looks like that you need to take it from. As I say, it's 2009 to 2017. So any of these will do. The steering column's under the dash, so you have to climb under there to undo it. I can't remember if it was Torx bits or a 12 point. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but it was relatively easy to get to. I didn't really struggle too much to get in there, so yeah. So what we're gonna be doing, we're gonna end up chopping the ends off here and reusing the E46 ones, so it's got the correct fittings on the end, and they're going to be stuck onto here. So to start with, we need to chop these here off. Right, so once you cut through, you should be able to remove the top cap. And as you can see here, there's some roller bearings in there. So we're going to reuse this cap, so we need to tap it out, but being very careful we don't damage any of these roller bearings. So I'm just going to leave this back on here for now, until we've done the other side. And eventually we'll be tapping this cap back through, and we're going to reuse that one to go into here. So we'll leave that for once we get around to it though. I'll flip this over, cut the other side, cut these two sides, and we'll skip forward to there. So what you're going to have now is the E46 steering shaft with the ends cut off, and just retained these last ends of it, just the caps on the end. So you're going to have 4 of those that pop off, and I'll have the roller bearings in there. So we're going to keep those safe. And the shaft here is now pretty much throwaway. And we're going to do the same with the forward, but the reverse. So what we need to do here is we need to cut these off here and here. So the ends of this are going to come off, and we're going to end up fitting these in here like that instead. So be very careful, we're only cutting these off, not the center shaft. So just the ends on this one, complete opposite of what we cut before. Rightio, so that leaves us with this, the E46 ends. We've got the Ford Focus steering shaft here with the original cap still on it. And now we're just going to put the two together. So what we want to do is we actually want to take the U-joint right out of this. And to do that, we need to cut these ones here to cut them off. So we're going to have to hacksaw that off to get it through, or angle grinder at a minimum. And while we're cutting through here, we just need to be careful we don't damage these, because we do actually want to keep the outers. So everything else is pretty much junk, but we need to slice through here to get this apart. So I'm going to attempt that now. Right, so we cut the sides of it. So now she's just pretty much spinning in there. I'm just going to break that last little bit off. Hopefully it's enough for us to get the center out. Always so difficult to do with my hands. Right, so that center should pop out like that. And then these centers will pop out as well. So what I'll do is I'll just grab this, and these centers should now press out this way. Right, with it like that, you can now pop out the caps. And that leaves us just with this open hole here, which is all we need to fit in our new BMW fitting. So I'll knock the others out, and then we can go from there. Cool, that's another one done. So the only other thing we have to do with this is inside here, you can probably see there's 4 points where it's staked. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that just means the metal's being kind of knocked over so that it's not round. It holds the caps in place. So we need to get a Dremel, or a rotary tool or a file, and kind of file those punched in pieces out of it. Right, so we've got our Dremel tool here. This is just a cheap one, it's like a $50 one. If you don't have a Dremel tool, you can probably use a file or something. See, it just spins up like that. We just got a bit on here just for grinding. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take, let me zoom in, that little bit there off. Right, so that leaves us with the shaft, which has got the caps all taken out, and our original BMW ends with the caps in them. So now the trick's going to be to tap out the bearing caps out of here, and using the press or the vise, and we're going to reuse these on these once they're fitted into this. So these will eventually pop out like this, like that, and these are going to slide into here. So we're going to work them into there, and the caps will sit in the end. So we'll punch them in from the sides or press them in depending on what you got. Right, I've come up with a bit of a plan. If I jam some tape on the inside, I'm hoping the bearings will stay in. So let's give that a shot. Let's get the socket on the top there and give it a tap. And there's a bit more grippy on the vise. Give it a bit of a tap and hopefully she'll pop out. I might have to do this off camera. Right, so this option worked a bit better. Just straddling it in the middle and then punching it down rather than trying to clamp the actual fitting. And then out the bottom here, we've got our cap. So we're going to hold on to that one. That's our goodie. This video is sponsored today, as always, by Monster Energy Mango Loco, an empty one at that. Right, so 4 more of these to go. The tape trick seemed to work quite well, so I'd recommend the tape trick. Just rolling a bit of this up, any tape you got, and jamming it in there, just to stop these roller bearings coming out, because they are very small. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to chuck this on the end, so it does just pop in like that, and that one there just sits in there like that. And what we need to do, we need to get the caps, and we need to press the caps in. So we're just going to push them on, and then just give them a bit of a squeeze, and that should push them in place. I've got a press, but I'm not going to use it because I'm trying to do this for guys who don't have one at home, because not everyone's got all the tools. So we're just going to squeeze them up, and then hopefully she should be good. Give it a bit of a tap just to get it to go down. Right, so what we've got going on here is the last 2. We'll just crank this bad Laris up, and it should press them in nicely. Just making sure this is centered. It is centered. It takes a little bit of tension, but it does do the job. I'm just going to actually shift that right to the dead center of the vise, stand by. And you just see it's pushing in those end caps. So if you've got a press like I do, but I'm not going to use for this video, if you've got a press, it makes this easier. Still got movement, so that's good. Let's keep going. You can tap these in. I did tap the other side, but this is much nicer and controlled. Right, you can see that still can move that way. So that's what we want, and then we've just got to go and tap the sides just to lock them in place. Right, and I'm just going to swage the caps in there, just by giving them a bit of a punch on the sides, just to lock them in. Sit it nice and flat. Just going to punch in the material there. All 4 corners. Right, when it's done, what we should be looking at is something like that. You can see the 4 I've done where I've just smacked it over in the 4 edges, and that'll be enough hopefully to keep her in place. So yeah, that's pretty much our steering shaft finished, minus the weld in the center. I would like to take the steering shaft out and then measure it myself. But I believe the center bolt, when you remove it, it makes it collapsible, which is no good obviously for us. So once you take that out, you pretty much lose your reference point. Right, so I got the drive shaft out. I've gone for a slightly different approach on this one. I figured all you guys watching this video probably actually want the dimensions of the factory drive shaft before it gets mucked around with. So I removed it in situ, I guess, without it collapsed. So the way I've done it is I've actually loosened off this steering rack here. You see the steering rack's loose. So that's 2 16 mil bolts pretty much in the front there. 2 of those, and that's dropped that forward, which has allowed me to pull the steering rack out without actually collapsing it. So we can have a proper measure up now. I'll write the length down below, and that will save you guys a lot of time having to try work it out in your car. Right, for anyone watching, that's bang on in the middle. It's about 29.5. So that's the measurement we're going to be after on here, is 29.5. So we're not far off. Need a little bit more, so we'll just adjust this to 29.5. So simply slides out a little bit. Alright, I'm just going to measure up, make sure that's right, and then what we'll do is we'll give this a bit of a clean up in the centre, and then put some tack welds around it. Right, so that's bang on 29.5 now. There's about 1/4 of an inch worth of the spline showing, roughly, down there. So I'm going to give this a bit of a clean up, and then we'll tack weld it up, and that'll be our slimline shaft done. And you can see how much skinnier that is compared to the factory E46 shaft. It's insane. You can just see there, I'm just putting some tacks in there just to hold it in place so that steering column doesn't extend any further than it currently is. Right, thanks for watching guys. Hope you enjoyed making your modified E46 steering shaft, or at least got some details enough to do your own one. It's for off-road use only, as I've mentioned, or track purposes only, not to really be used on your road car. If you do it, I'm not giving any warranties or anything on it. It's just more something that to help aid people making these for their drift cars or whatever else you're using that you require a narrow shaft. So it's never a good thing to have a narrow shaft. Probably bad choice of words. But anyway, follow the video, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.